Inventory continues to rise while demand remains pretty solid. Let's talk about that and more in this week's segment of Market Watch. Hi everyone, it's Joshua Barks here, Associate Broker with Keller Williams Realty Boise and Team Lead of the Barks & Co. Real Estate Team. Thank you for tuning into this week's segment of Market Watch. If you're new to the channel, we talk about the Boise area housing market on a week-over-week basis, and then once a month we go into a deep dive into the market dynamics. Last week, if you missed that update, that's going to be in a link in the description below. And then we also put together a full write-up and report every week and send that out via email. The link to sign up for that email, once a week email, is in the description below. So let's get started with the numbers. We have more inventory than we've seen since 2015 now. Over 1,600 available homes for sale in Ada County, 1,606 new or active listings. We had 225 new listings come to market in the last 7 days, which is down slightly from 266, which we had last week. But inventory overall is still increasing. We broke that 1,600 home threshold for the first time since 2015. Though inventory skyrocketing, continuing on that upward trajectory. Demand flat. We have 550 homes pending overall right now in Ada County, which is down slightly from last week when we had 552. But the week prior to that, we also had 552. So I'd say we're staying pretty much the same there. And interesting to note, if you actually look at the number of homes going under contract, how many buyers are buying homes in that 7-day time period, we had more homes go under contract. This is the third week that we've had an increasing number of buyers purchase homes than the week prior. So we had 156 buyers buy a house in the last 7 days. They went pending. Then last week we had 152. And the week prior to that, we had 129. So we're seeing more buyers buy right now, but the number of overall pending sales is staying pretty flat. When you're looking at the number of homes sold, we had 144 homes close this week. Last week we had 157, so staying pretty consistent there. That's kind of no surprise because sold data kind of lags behind, usually about 30 days. But because we're seeing that more inventory come on the market and demand is staying the same, it's really, the demand is still the same, but it's being spread out between, we have 3 times as many available homes than what we have pending right now. So even though the same number of buyers are out there looking at the number of pending sales, we aren't experiencing that per listing because it's spread out. And then so we're going to continue to see average days on market increase, which is wonderful. And then also as we work toward kind of balancing out and figuring out what this new normal is, we are finally going to see buyers that can have options, take time to set aside a day to go look at homes rather than have to hurry and get off work because this home came on the market today and you have to look at it within the next hour or so, or you're going to completely miss out. So those days are far behind us, thank goodness. And then when you're looking at interest rates kind of came down from the almost 6% that they were, and now we're in the 5.5%. We're hovering around that for the past couple of weeks. 5.54 is the average interest rate according to Freddie Mac's report. Now with the average interest rate, that doesn't mean that your interest rate is going to be either that high or that low, depending on what your specific situation is. It means that if you're thinking about interest rate, you need to talk to a lender. Get all of your ducks in a row. A couple of my lender partners are able to quote some really great rates right now, depending on your individual financial situation. So if that's something that you're thinking about, you're kind of trying to figure out what affordability looks like for you, please reach out to me. I'm happy to partner you up with one of them so that they can help you with all of those numbers and planning and figuring out if you can afford to buy a home right now and or if it makes sense for you right now, because it might make sense for you and it might not. One thing with interest rates, kind of a broad example, is if you're looking at a $450,000 house and you have 20% down, so $90,000 to put down, right now at 5.5% interest, you're just principal and interest, so not talking about taxes or insurance, or if there's other things that are involved in that payment there. we are looking at about $2,000 a month for a $450,000 house. If interest rates go up to 6%, you're looking at about $2,100. And if they go up to 6.5%, you're looking at about $2,300. For that same $90,000 down, same $450,000 purchase price. Now, if you're trying to keep that $2,000 a month payment and interest rates go up to 6.5%, if you have $90,000 to put down, you can buy basically a $400,000 house for that. You could buy $450,000, now you can buy $400,000 for that same $2,000 a month. So interest rates make a pretty big deal when you're getting a mortgage. So if you are a buyer getting a mortgage, definitely reach out to myself. I can partner you with a lender so that you can help figure out what your situation looks like and be a better planner with that, because now you finally, as a buyer, have time to plan. Whereas the last couple of years you really haven't, because things have just been rush, go. So incredible that we're able to do that. And then on the flip side of that, as a seller, sellers have not had this much competition in literally years. 2015 was the last time we've had this much inventory. And the Boise area is actually #1 in the entire country right now for the number of listings that have had a price reduction. #1. So top 10 in Boise, we have top 10 population last couple years, top 10 for price appreciation, whatnot. Now we're #1 for price reductions on a listing. And I believe a lot of that has to do with, one, we do have increasing inventory, and of course interest rates have come up, which has dampened the demand a little bit there because affordability has dampened, and we all knew that prices were stabilizing. I think unfortunately people are doing kind of what they do during a normal summer, which is they price their home as if it was, the peak spring selling season, or the peak selling season for their house in their area. And they go into the summer and they're like, well, my neighbor got, whatever this number is, so I'm going to price it, they got this, I'm going to price it here, maybe a little higher than that because prices are appreciating. Well, you probably can't do that. That's not a great strategy, because before, when our market was doing like basically a vertical appreciation, you could look at the comparable sales and go, okay, the highest comparable sales here. So if this is kind of fair range, we can probably push it and start here and then maybe even go up to here, right? Well, you can't do that anymore. When you're looking at the comparable sales, or when your agent's looking at the comparable sales, you need to really take into consideration what's happening in our current marketplace. Because if the range is, here to here, this probably means this is your ceiling, not your floor. So this is probably the max that you could go rather than where you should start. So when you're looking at the range, you probably want to determine, how long you're willing to have your house for sale. Now, that being said, even homes that are priced right and look great, they're in good condition and are a good value, average days on market is going up. Homes aren't selling in a day anymore. So if your home's on the market for 1 or 2 weeks, even back in 2016, our average days on market was like 40 days. So even if your house is on the market for a month, you're probably still okay, unless maybe you knew you were testing the market. So interesting things to look at there. I think what we're going to see later on this year, this is kind of getting into prediction territory. So who knows, could be right or wrong. I think we're going to see a small uptick in activity. Pending's going to increase as we get further on in the year, probably after the election or before the election. But election years are always weird. We typically see kind of a dampening with election years, just like we see a dampening in the summertime. But our fall market, we're kind of poised to have a pretty good fall as long as interest rates remain pretty stable. They are, the Fed has said that they're meeting a couple more times. I believe they're meeting again later this month, planning on raising the Fed rate again, which will affect mortgage rates. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I do think they're going to rise again. So if you're a buyer, buying sooner might be in your benefit than buying later. And then if you're a seller, depends on your situation right now. There's a lot of available homes on the market. So just figure out, where your home fits into that, and then make sure you're pricing it right, because we're #1 in the nation. I'm seeing a lot of price reductions happening right now. And if they had just priced it correctly because of what our market is doing in the first place, it would have it would have been easier. It's been difficult to price property. Don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean that everybody's just an idiot. It means that it's been difficult to price our property because when you're looking at comparable sales, whenever a market is transitioning, the comparables aren't accurate for what's happening right now because the comparables are just a snapshot of what's happened in the past. And so if the market is similar to what's happened in the past, it makes it much easier. So again, back in 2020, when our market started doing this vertical climb, it was difficult to price property and they were just getting bid up so high, so much higher from where they started because all the comparable sales was saying, you know, our range is here. But because we didn't have the inventory and we had so much demand, it just kept going up and up and up. So it got a lot easier to price property as we got further into 2020 and 2021. But as we're, you know, done with all of that and finally starting to stabilize, it's gotten tricky in a different way because you're looking at those comps and the market's not doing this anymore. It's kind of flattening out, which is, again, good news because it's healthy to go back to, you know, they say an average appreciation is 3 to 4%. That's what is considered healthy growth. Last year was 35%, which is ridiculous. We'll never see that again, probably in our lifetime. And on the flip side of that, when people are saying prices are coming down, well, some prices are. Some homes are worth, probably could have sold for more a couple months ago or even last year than they could sell for today, but that's because buyers have choices. It's basic economics, a lot more supply, demand is staying the same. We're headed toward balanced territory. Still technically considered a seller's market, but we're headed toward a balanced market, which is good for everybody. I think things will start getting a lot more fair, which is wonderful. But yeah, feel free to reach out. My report is going out today, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. I will see you next week for the Market Watch update, and then I believe the following week is going to be the full deep dive into the market dynamics so we can really talk about price appreciation and things like that. But that's what we have this week. We'll see you next week. Thanks again.